Greetings, magical people. It's Afira here, the Writing Witch, and in this video, I'm responding to your request for an updated morning routine. Only this time, rather than taking you along for a single day's morning ritual, I'm instead inviting you to come along for a time travel with me to a different realm of space and time. After having recently completed my year-long journaling adventure through the seasonal themes of the Wheel of the Year, I'm kind of in that liminal phase between finishing one journaling practice and creating a new chapter in my journaling journey. I intend to craft my next round of seasonal junk journal signatures soon, and please do leave a comment if you would like to see that process here on YouTube. And in the meantime, though, I'm giving myself January to just let my intuition guide me as I go about my mornings, as well as my night routines. And actually, this liminal phase of not having a specific morning and night ritual nailed down is part of my overall practice as a seasonal living-oriented witch. The time in which this video is coming out is the phase between the winter solstice and the 1st of February, aka February's Eve, Imbolc, Candlemas, Bridget's Day, Groundhog Day, or whatever you choose to call it. In my practice, this is the time of the year to begin getting a real feel for how I want my daily life to be in the year ahead, rather than forcing myself to make overly specific resolutions and trying to mold myself into them right at the beginning of the Gregorian calendar year. I instead give myself the freedom to explore what actually feels good to me and allow my intentions, practices, and thereby my daily rituals to shape up around that lived experience. I found this free period in the year to be particularly helpful for me as a non-specific manifester via the human design system. But even if you're a specific manifester, or if you don't know what type you are yet, I feel this advice can be helpful for anybody who has gotten into a rut of any kind, or if you've struggled with resolutions, rituals, or daily self-care practices in the past. I'm currently in the process of responding to your other request for a full video about specific versus non-specific manifestation and how to discover what works best for you. But in the meantime, here's an enchanting visual journey into some of my past daily rituals. Let this serve as perhaps a video library of elements that you can cherry pick from as you're creating or evolving your daily rituals for the new year. Or if you're someone who benefits from never having any kind of locked-in repetitive daily practice, you can use these ideas as a sort of menu to choose from if you're not sure how you wish to spend your me time on any particular day. For some of us, it's helpful to have a structure to follow that keeps us on track with our intentions and aligned with our desired feelings each day. While for others of us, the freedom to allow yourself to follow your inspiration in the moment is much better. So I like to give myself a sense of freedom within structure most of the time. But either way, I found that the most important key thing is to make sure we are actually giving ourselves that non-negotiable self-care time on a consistent basis. For me, it's typically taking the form of self-reflection time in the morning and then more free leisure-like time in the evening. For you, it may be totally different. Feel free to take ideas and craft them into a ritual that works for you. So without further ado, let's take a look at the 4 elements of self-care. The air element is the realm of the mind. And as an air zodiac sign, I found that it's really helpful and feels really natural to me to give my mind an intentional outlet as close to first thing in the morning as possible. Do you find that your mind tends to wander to work or to things that have been troubling you as soon as you wake up? If so, try giving your mind something else to do, specifically something that's directly in alignment with the person you truly wish to be in the year ahead, or with the way you desire to feel on a daily basis, rather than just letting racing thoughts or outside influences shape how you begin your day. The best way that I've found to do this is to form a habit of doing some kind of mental ritual in bed before even opening up my eyes. Lately, I've been running through a mental gratitude list. I try to make my very first thought each morning something that I'm grateful for, and then build upon that high vibe energy by thinking of as many more positive things as possible. Naturally, there's almost always bound to be some kind of challenge that will come up during every day of this life, but I find that the energy I have available to me to navigate these inevitable growing pains is often much more powerful when I've given myself a full cup to start with right out of the gate. Another ritual that I've done in bed before opening my eyes is calling upon the elements and either visualizing my goals or listing them in words in my head. Visualization is not my strongest suit, so I find that it's usually more natural and more helpful for me to focus on my desired feelings rather than trying to dictate or exactly picture what I desire in detail. But if you happen to enjoy visualization, now at the beginning of the day before even opening your eyes is the perfect time to do that. First thing in the morning is also a great time for mantras, incantations, and affirmations. These can be recited in your head before getting up, or you can even turn this into an EFT tapping session or a journaling practice. For more on those techniques, I invite you to check out the resources linked below. Another way to work with the air element is, of course, with good old-fashioned journaling. For these more in-depth journal practices that require more awake thinking, I tend to wash up and get my coffee or tea ready before sitting down to do this kind of writing on the sofa or, weather permitting, outside. The longer entries can be anything from a free stream of consciousness to a poem to a structured set of journal prompts. If you've seen the massive book that I've recently bound together from the page bundles that I filled up with writing in 2021, you know that my journaling practice last year consisted of not just doing my seasonal journal prompts for the Wheel of the Year themes, but also elemental journal prompts, answers to prompts from courses that I'm taking, and some other freeform entries as well. And by the way, if you would like to try any of my journaling prompts, then I invite you to see the links below where you can either get my journal prompt pages for the current season, or you can join my full year and a day journaling adventure to dive fully into the seasonal journaling life. And you can also get access to various kinds of journal prompts and journal prompt pages at all of the different tiers if you choose to support me on Patreon. The earth element is the realm of the physical and tangible. So any form of body work or practices that engage the physical senses can all fall into this category. I've personally found that I'm more up for these kinds of rituals in the evening as opposed to in the morning. For me, earth grounding daily rituals tend to include cooking and eating an intentional meal, as well as moving my body. I like to think of dinner time as a sort of gratitude and abundance ritual, where I indulge the senses and immerse myself in the intuitive art of preparing and consuming something I really enjoy. I like to spend some time in the kitchen feeling into what flavors I'm in the mood for and getting creative with food. Sometimes this looks like trying a new recipe that I've been wanting to try and letting it evoke the mood of a certain culture or an energetic theme which inspires me. Other times it's just leisurely sipping some wine while cooking something simple and playing music or a YouTube video in the background. Anything goes as long as it's something that inspires me or evokes a mood that feels inviting. The way I eat my dinner also has intention behind it as well. Something you may not know about me is that I suffered from disordered eating in the past, and so a big part of going through my spiritual awakening involved making peace with food. Not only did I have to learn what kinds of food felt good for me to eat, but I also had to get really intentional about how I wanted to curate the experience of eating. Mealtime needed to be peaceful time where the focus was self-love and self-care. Now my relationship with food and with my body are really healthy, and honestly, it's thanks to just getting in the habit of practicing mindfulness in the kitchen and dining room. Cooking and eating rituals can also be a tool for manifestation. For example, in 2019, when I was wanting to manifest an ideal partner, I practiced setting the table for two, even though I was eating alone. It was like I was setting the intention to create room in my life for another person. And you want to know something funny? I did end up manifesting my ideal partner by early 2020, even though it turns out we aren't really an eating dinner together kind of couple. That's just the magic of being a non-specific manifester for you. But what I did end up learning and discovering about myself was that it's one of my personal values to have a nice sit-down dinner date most evenings, even if that turns out that it's usually a dinner date with myself. I also imagine someday having a larger kitchen and dining room where I can host gatherings for the seasons or just because. So practicing my cooking and tablescaping skills is also a ritual to call in that future reality. I find food to be a great way to also just connect with nature in a super simple, fundamental way. Food itself comes from the earth, and it keeps our earthly bodies alive. So why not let every single meal be a mini Thanksgiving feast? For me, movement rituals in the evening kind of do the opposite for me as what journaling does in the morning. Where journaling gives my active mind an outlet to express its ponderings, physical movement instead allows me to get out of my head and into my body. As an Aquarius, it's really easy for me to be thinking all the time. But in order to have a healthy and balanced life, I need to make sure that I'm also prioritizing turning the thinking mind off sometimes and just experiencing what it's like to exist in a human body. I can easily do this just by setting the intention to clear my mind while doing some familiar yoga poses and focusing on my breath. Other times, though, I like to actually form new connections between my neural pathways and my muscle memory by learning new dance sequences. Fire is the realm of transformation and creative alchemy. So sometimes this takes the form for me of free creativity time. But to be honest, a lot of the time I'm not really leaning towards adding any extra fire vibes into my daily self-care rituals because my moon is in Aries, and both my career as a creative entrepreneur and my journaling and affirmation rituals in the morning are already typically pretty saturated in the themes of self-transformation and creative innovation. So I kind of tend to use my self-care time to balance that out by working with the other elements. However, I will bring some of that fiery intentionality into my rituals when I feel it's necessary. This can look like doing a burning ceremony, where I'm actively or symbolically burning through limitations and directing my creative force towards a desired outcome. This can take the form of an actual spell at my altar. Or it can just be the decision to forego Netflix for the night and instead have a creative play date with myself and my art supplies. This always leads to some kind of breakthrough that allows me to transform in bigger ways moving forward into the future. Water is the realm of emotion, and it kind of encompasses the entire concept of having a self-care practice. An easy and obvious way to evoke the element of water in a daily ritual is to have a relaxing bath. Much like my earth element rituals, a ritual bath can be formal or casual, depending on what I feel like I need that day. It could be a time to go into deep meditation with a more specific healing intention. Or it can just be a time to read a trashy vampire novel and sip a nice drink. Either way, the intention is to relax, let go of the day, and practice being in the energy of receiving. If you'd like to go deeper on any of the types of rituals that we talked about today, I would love to invite you to leave a comment letting me know. In the meantime, here's another video that may inspire your daily practice for the year ahead, and thank you so much for being your magical self. Until next time, Blessed be.